Hi everybody, I'm Brian Gilbert. There's a fairy in your kitchen, and today I'm in Cave Creek, Arizona, and I'm at my friend Terry's house. And thanks Jezebel for having everything ready for me. She's awesome. And today we are going to be making something that's very naughty-licious, and it's going to be made with Milky Way bars. And it's going to be FairyLicious, easy to make, and it's going to be magical in your kitchen, and it's going to be a hit for you. So stay with us and come join me in the kitchen. Hi everybody, I'm Brian Gilbert, the fairy in your kitchen, and again, thank you for watching. Oh, and Jezebel's already been in the Milky Way bar, so excuse me for just a moment. You got to just, oh, never mind. Anyways, thank you guys for being here. Today we're going to make a FairyLicious, but actually it's really called Naughtilicious fairy cake. And actually I call it a FairyWay cake. And I already started mixing 2.5 cups sugar to 1/2 cup softened butter. And one of the key things into making this a successful dessert is to use all room temperature ingredients. So like I said, I just put 2.5 cups of sugar and 1/2 cup of butter, and then what you're going to do is you're going to add in 1 egg at a time, and it takes 4 eggs. And I'm just going to mix it by hand because in that way I can kind of control how I'm doing things. But the rest of the ingredients that will go into this will be 6 Milky Way bars melted with a 1/2 cup of butter. I know. But the one thing that will cancel that out is that you're going to put in 2.5 cups flour and 1 1/4 cup buttermilk, and you will alternate the dry and wet ingredients after you get the eggs and Milky Way bars mixed into this FairyLicious mixture that I'm doing right here. So I'm going to mix 1 more egg in here and get this stirred in. And I made this recipe, I've been making it for, I hate to say this, over 30 years. And one of the times when I was in college, I came home and I was at my mother's house, and I made this recipe because I was having some friends over. And you know, flour's flour, right? Well, she had flour and powdered sugar in 2 separate canisters side by side. I thought it was both flour, so I ended up using powdered sugar instead of flour. And so when I made this cake, and it was in the oven in a bundt pan, like a 1/2 hour into it, I could hear bubble, 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 and it looked like an eruption was taking place, and I could not figure out what had happened. Well, what had happened, it was the powdered sugar. So the next day and a half, I was cleaning out my mother's oven. So I'll get this all mixed up here. And oh, by the way, since we're still here in Arizona, and you saw how hot it was out when I was running, I melted the Milky Way bars and the butter outside again, so bear with me one moment. Why use an oven? I'll be right back. And here is the melted Milky Way bars and butter. It just looks like a rich syrup with like jam-like consistency. And if I could talk, I would do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to empty this. This is a little clip. It's a really handy thing. You can clip it on the edge of a pot, and then you can set your spoon in it so it doesn't sit into the pan or sauce pot and burn. So I'm going to dump this. Oh my God, Jezebel, look at this. And I know you're a mess already, but we will get this mixed in here. I'm going to finish this, stirring this all together, adding the dry ingredients with the buttermilk, and then we'll put it in the oven, and we'll come back and see the finished product and taste it. So thanks for watching, and I'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're up with the finished product here. I'm just taking all the mixture and putting it into a greased bundt pan. And you do need to mix this in a very large mixing bowl, as you can see, because this almost fills up the entire bundt pan. And I also want to mention to you, if you don't have a bundt pan, like I said, it makes a very large cake here, as you're going to see. So what I would suggest doing, if you don't, I've done in the past where I've made it actually a FairyWay bread, And what I do is I pour the mixture almost 3/4 of the way to the top in several bread pans, and then bake that way, so that way you have extra ones to take to your friends or freeze, and it's a really good cake. So I'm going to put this in the oven for 1 hour and 15 minutes at 350 degrees. And I do want to point out this. Everybody's oven is different. This is a very dense pan. So after 1 hour, please check it with a toothpick by poking it in, you know, and then pulling it out. And if any of the mixture stuck on the toothpick, then put it back in. So sometimes it's 1 hour to 1 hour and 15 minutes. So just check it after 1 hour and see if it's done. So we'll put this in the oven. And Jez, I know you're excited about that. And when we get back, we'll have the finished product. I know you're thirsty. And we'll taste it, and then I'll make some other suggestions on how to serve it, and so we'll be right back. Hey, we're back with the finished product, and we're just gonna make sure it all looks good and tastes good. So in Terry's oven, it took us about 1 hour and 5 minutes to bake this. We let it cool, and it takes a long time, like 1 hour to cool or longer. And then you, of course, put a plate over the top, invert it, and pop it over. And what we did is we melted down some caramels with a little bit of cream outside once again, and I just drizzled. It was like a cup of caramels and a little splash of cream, and we just drizzled that over the top of the cake. You can also, if you want to, remember the famous powdered sugar? Before you serve it, you get to sprinkle a little powdered sugar over the top, or you can make a chocolate ganache and pour over the top, or you can just serve it by itself, because it's gonna be good, I will guarantee it. And do whatever you want to spruce it up, because it's your recipe now, and that's the whole idea behind this. So let's do a taste test and see if I was successful. It's been quite a while since I've had this cake. So, very moist, and we'll do a little taste. I'm gonna do the first taste test, Jezebel. And I'm gonna do a small bite because I've learned. Okay, this is Naughtilicious. It's not as sweet as you would think it would be. It's creamy and caramel and just delish. All I can say is make this cake and you're gonna be a hit, because if anybody asks you that you make this for, they're gonna say, where did you get this recipe? And you're gonna say, there's a fairy in my kitchen. And speaking of fairies in your kitchen, Ellen, call me, I wanna be a fairy in your kitchen, as well as Dino Hillis. And I want us to do a big shout out to Chef Art Smith and Ronnie Wu. If you can't be a fairy in my kitchen, I want to be a fairy in your kitchen, or vice versa. Either way, I would be appreciative of you, and thank you for all the tweets that you're doing for me. And speaking of Twitter and Facebook, I want you, oh, somebody's at the door, so we gotta go, but I just want you to know, I got several followers now coming up on Facebook and on Twitter, so if you want to find me on Twitter, it's Fairy in Kitchen, and on Facebook, there's a Fairy in Your Kitchen, ThereZa, Fairy in Your Kitchen. And thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you on the next segment.